Russia. Giving F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine a colossal risk?
Here's a summary of the article.
Western countries are still adhering to the escalation scenario that risks widening the Ukraine war in Europe, says Deputy Foreign Minister. Western countries will be running colossal risks if they supply Ukraine with F-16 fighter jets, a Russian official says. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko was responding to a question on Saturday about the implications of providing the jets, which Ukraine has been requesting from NATO countries, the TASS news agency reported. Ukraine has not yet won commitments to deliver the planes, but U.S. President Joe Biden told G7 leaders on Friday that Washington supports joint allied training programs for Ukrainian pilots on F-16s, senior United States officials said. We see that Western countries are still adhering to the escalation scenario. It involves colossal risks for themselves, Grushko was quoted as saying. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has for months called for the supply of advanced fighter jets to support Ukraine's defenses against Russia's invasion. The Ukrainian leader had faced rejection until now from his Western allies who feared providing Ukraine with advanced offensive weapons could be met with an escalation by Russian President Vladimir Putin and the spread of the war in Europe.
This post received a score of 24,000, with an upvote ratio of 90%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Well lads, looks like another final warning. A final warning. The finalist warning.
CCP_final warning template _final_final_final_final_final_ versus 07.3.txt.
This used to be a Soviet joke about China.
Russia is soaked in irony lol.
From back in the days when it was behind the irony curtain.
As we've seen by now, NATO is giving less and less of a shit about the threats this foolish state decides to make. Not many cards left to play, Putin.
Literally only one card. Nukes. What else can Russia do? They already target civilians to the maximum extent they possibly can. They already torture and execute POWs. They already randomly shoot, torture, rape and murder civilians in occupied territories. What the hell else could they do?
NATO has to ensure that Russia loses this war badly enough that they and China never ever try something like it again. But they somehow have to do that in a way that also ensures A. Russia doesn't use its nukes, or B. Russia doesn't fall apart and lose control of its nukes.
Greater than doesn't fall apart and lose control of its nukes. And this part is by far the more important of the two. It would suck if Russia manages to lob a nuke at Kiev, but they likely aren't going to start a full-scale nuclear exchange. Now, if they decide to start selling, losing bombs to any of the terrorist, crazy, whatever groups that would love nothing more than to set them off in a box truck in Times Square, then we're in big trouble.
There were a lot of good people in Russia and enough smart people in charge that nuclear security was maintained. The US and EU don't want Russia to win this conflict for all the same reasons Russia views it as a necessity. When Russia loses completely, a regime collapse seems likely. That could spell a whole lot of awful things for the world with how Putin has ran things the past couple of decades. Greater than the world got lucky when the Soviet Union fell. There were a lot of good people in Russia and enough smart people in charge that nuclear security was maintained. The US definitely helped with that. The Nunn-Lugar Act really helped with the control of WMD material, information after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It's an interesting subject to research if you're not familiar with it.
Colossal risk, true, for you.
It would be extremely painful. For you.
In 18 months Russia has gone from powerhouse to outhouse.
For decades Russia was thought to have the most powerful military in Eurasia. Turns out it doesn't even have the most powerful military in Ukraine.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.